He survived a decade in a Siberian prison. He survived the man he warned about. And now, from exile, Mikhail Khodorkovsky says Britain is next. The Kremlin's killers are already on UK soil, operating in the dark, waiting for orders. Putin can no longer invade the West, but poison, fire, sabotage, those weapons travel quietly. And they have arrived. Russian President Vladimir Putin reportedly sees Britain as Moscow's primary enemy and is prepared to intensify hybrid attacks against the United Kingdom. In an interview published by The Sun, exiled Russian oil tycoon and Kremlin critic Mikhail Khodorkovsky has warned that Russia is already operating covertly inside Britain and exploiting what he described as Europe's military weakness.
Putin is a gangster, and he perceives someone else's weakness as an invitation to attack them. Today, for Putin, Europe is a weak opponent. The West must not underestimate the Kremlin leader, who is 100% likely to strike Britain with any available means, and Russia has chosen the UK as its main enemy, marking it up as the force that stands behind everything that opposes Russia.
Khodorkovsky, once one of Russia's richest businessmen, before spending a decade in a Siberian prison after clashing with Putin, said the Kremlin leader now views Europe as vulnerable, especially without direct US military backing.
Putin doesn't have the right force for a proper attack against the United Kingdom. He doesn't actually have enough military might left to attack the West today. Putin also knows that the European army is very weak. Without Americans, it wouldn't be able to defeat Russia.
The warning comes as Russia continues hybrid warfare operations across Europe following its invasion of Ukraine in 2022, including cyberattacks, sabotage operations, espionage activities, and alleged assassination plots. Khodorkovsky argued that while Russia lacks the military capacity for a direct assault on Britain, Moscow could still exploit internal divisions through covert means.
From this point of view today, Europe is a temptation for Putin. A temptation, of course, not for a brutal attack, but for a hybrid attack. Europe is undoubtedly a target.
Khodorkovsky outlined what he described as 3 methods Russia could use against Britain. The first, he said, involves Russia's military intelligence agency, the GRU, which Khodorkovsky linked to past assassination operations, including the 2006 poisoning of former Russian spy Alexander Litvinenko in London and the 2018 Novichok attack on Sergei Skripal in Salisbury. British inquiries previously concluded that both attacks were likely approved at the highest levels of the Russian state. Khodorkovsky also claimed Russia's Federal Security Service, or the FSB, has continued building networks of agents inside Europe, despite expulsions of suspected Russian operatives after the Salisbury poisoning and the Ukraine war.
Putin's second option for an attack in the UK is already being prepared. It is the system of agents, including foreign intelligence agents, the FSB. They will be used if there is an attack. Despite Russia's partial failure in the UK, its assassination targets in other European countries like Germany have all been successfully killed.
Khodorkovsky further alleged Moscow has increasingly outsourced operations to criminal networks. That warning follows the conviction of 5 British men over a 2025 firebomb attack on a London warehouse linked to humanitarian aid shipments for Ukraine. Prosecutors said the operation was conducted on behalf of Russia-linked Wagner Group operatives using encrypted Telegram channels. Britain's Foreign Office condemned recent Russian actions after Moscow placed former Defense Secretary Ben Wallace on a Russian wanted list. The UK Foreign Office told The Sun,
"The accusations made today by Russia are completely unacceptable. The UK does not stand for intimidation of its citizens."
But perhaps the most sobering part of Khodorkovsky's warning isn't about what Russia can do. It's about how long this will last. He believes the West is not facing a crisis. It's facing an era. A prolonged confrontation with Moscow that could stretch across the rest of this decade, with no clear end in sight.
I think that, unfortunately, it is more likely that Putin will stay in power for 5, 7, or even 10 years. All these years will be in a state of Cold War, and the main goal is to prevent it from becoming a hot war.
Khodorkovsky's message is clear. The war may not come with tanks or missiles. It may come with poison, with fire, with agents who are already here. And for Britain, The clock isn't ticking. It's already moved. As Russian forces continue to pound Ukraine, Moscow has introduced a new law that could dramatically widen President Vladimir Putin's military powers beyond the battlefield. On May 13th, the Russian parliament approved a bill granting Putin the authority to deploy troops into foreign countries under the pretext of protecting Russian citizens abroad. According to the State Duma documents, the bill was drafted to protect the rights of Russian citizens in the event of their arrest, detention, criminal prosecution, or other prosecution pursuant to decisions of foreign courts vested with criminal jurisdiction by other foreign states without Russia's participation. Putin has 14 days to sign the bill into law. Defending the bill, State Duma chairman Vyacheslav Volodin accused Western nations of turning international justice into a repressive machine aimed at punishing those who oppose European political interests.
Western justice has turned into a repressive machine for dealing with those who disagree with the decisions imposed by European officials. In these circumstances, it is important to do everything to ensure that our citizens abroad are protected.
Ukraine has blasted the legislation as another sign of Moscow's growing expansionist ambitions, warning that the Kremlin is openly turning military aggression into official state policy.
This decision can be described in 2 words: aggressive lawlessness. By granting himself the unlimited right to use Russian occupation forces outside the country under the pretext of supposedly protecting Russian citizens, Putin is effectively admitting that aggression has become the norm of Russian state policy.
Moscow has previously justified its invasion of Ukraine in 2022 by claiming that it was protecting Russian-speaking regions of the country, including Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson. Russia still demands the reinstatement of the Russian language and the Russian Orthodox Church in Ukraine as part of any peace agreement. This year, various European intelligence agencies have labeled Russia as a direct threat to NATO and the West. Officials from the European Union have expressed concern that Putin will initiate a conflict with Europe within the next year or two to test the United States' commitment to NATO. At the same time, the Pentagon has cancelled plans to temporarily deploy 4,000 US-based troops to Poland. The decision, first reported by Army Times, came just 2 weeks after the Pentagon announced it was withdrawing 5,000 troops from NATO ally Germany, in part due to a widening rift over the Iran war between US President Donald Trump and Europe. Moscow's continued missile and drone assaults on Ukraine have already seen Russian weapons breach NATO territory, driving European states to ramp up their defense capabilities in response. Last month, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned that the Baltic countries might become Moscow's next target if Ukraine doesn't get enough support. Moscow itself has issued numerous threats to Europe since the beginning of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In December last year, Putin said Russia is ready to fight a war with Europe if provoked in his latest threat against the West.
Мы не собираемся воевать с Европой, я уже об этом 100 раз сказал. Но если Европа вдруг захочет с нами воевать и начнет, мы готовы прямо сейчас. Вот здесь не может быть никаких сомнений. Только вопрос в чем? Если Европа вдруг начнет с нами войну, мне кажется, что очень быстро, это же не Украина. С Украиной мы там действуем хирургическим способом, аккуратненько, так? Чтобы, понятно, да? Это не война в прямом современном смысле этого слова. Если Европа вдруг захочет начать с нами войну и начнет ее, то очень может быстро произойти ситуация, при которой нам не с кем будет договариваться.
With the war in Ukraine showing no signs of slowing down even in its 5th year, the new legislation is likely to deepen fears across Europe that the Kremlin is preparing for a broader and more confrontational foreign policy.